Hello and welcome to the circus.
Let's party every day, like there's no other way. Get drunk and play an every show. We'll stay out every night and count the city lights till we go. No other way, 'cause it's all I know. 'Cause it's all I know. 'Cause it's all I know.
Mota di Tabarnakus, welcome to the Worst Interview Show. This is a special edition of the Worst Sports Channel. I get to sit down once a week with a content creator in the fantasy sports and content creation space, ask them about their lives, what drove them to begin playing and creating fantasy football content, and so much more. Before we get started, hey, as always, guys, this is grassroots. It's fan-driven. If we're going to grow to truly be the worst of the worst, I need your help out there. So I want to hear from you. If you guys have some unhinged ideas or questions for the show, hit me up on Twitter at Jack Lucenay. Or if you prefer something a little less public, a little more low-key, you can always just send me emails to worstsportschannel@gmail.com. Today on the show, I'm really excited because this is something I just discovered, and I've just been sinking my teeth into it. The creator of the Generations app, which is a new fantasy football app where you can play with all-time players. Welcome to the show today, Imran Pervaiz.
It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your step. And if you can play it, it's all about pain. And who's gonna make it?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, man. I love it. I appreciate the game, baby. I love it.
Yeah, well, I went with the game because you're the creator of the game. We're going to get right into that. But before we even talk about any kind of serious stuff, we're going to get right into the bullshit here. That's what this show is all about. So, Imran, would you rather have a magic van that can teleport you anywhere you want, or a magic ring that allows you to absorb all of the knowledge in any book, magazine, or written material just by touching it? And we're going to eliminate the internet for two reasons. One, obviously, that's like everything encompassed together, so you would just touch that and be done. But also because there's a lot of thick shit on the internet, and I don't want you to have to just consume that all at once. I think that would literally twist your mind and your soul, and you would never be the same after. So we're going to exclude the internet. You can touch any written material, though, and you can just immediately gain that knowledge, or magic van that travels anywhere.
Oh, that's a tough one, man. Honestly, I think I'd probably go with the magic van just because I don't get a chance to travel that often and go anywhere too crazy. But again, with the knowledge piece, it's a tough choice, man. It really is. But I think I'm gonna go with the magic van just because I can explore different places I haven't had a chance to. Sometimes there's those forbidden areas that you don't have access to even get to. I think to me, that's just, exploration is everything. And I have a few friends that love to do crazy journeys and stuff, and I'm just jealous I don't get a chance to do that with them. So I think a magic van to help join the middle would be a pretty good plan to me.
It sounds really stupid, but I would take the van also, but it's just because I actually hate traveling. Just genuinely, the idea.
That's a smart take, though. That's a smart take. Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually, you know what? I think that a double down on the magic van. That makes sense.
Yeah, because once you're there and you're doing the thing, it's fine. But the actually getting up there's nothing good about traveling, right? The act of going to the place sucks so much. So yeah, I think
I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind driving, which is why the van piece is cool. I get to drive a little bit, even if it's imaginary driving. But I am a driver at heart. But when it comes to packing, the traveling, the making the itinerary, I'm not about that shit, man. It's super.
Oh yeah, I'm not good with planes either, so I don't know if you have any of that in you. But let's get back into the whole reason I really brought you on the show is because of the Generations app. Before we get into that part of it, give me a little bit of background. As a fan, your football allegiances, your how did you start playing fantasy football? How'd that all start?
Well, I've been a fan of the Jets for a pretty long time. Unfortunately, the Jets, I can say, I guess it builds character. I think I'm also a Mets fan too. So they actually just got their first win against the Tigers finally. Geez, like we're 1-5, but we're typically usually starting 12-0 and then sucking the rest of the year. So maybe the Mets can turn it around. But yeah, I mean, fantasy football, I didn't really get that much into it until about junior high school ish. I think that's the time frame. One of my best friends, Sebastian, we grew up together since kindergarten, which is crazy. We're still best friends now. I got a bunch of huge, crazy group, which is amazing to have that tight knit group. Actually, we all still play fantasy football together, except for him. He's too busy now. But he got me started in the first league. I think it's a lot of the stories when people first join fantasy is like they jumped in the first league and they won, but I won. So I'm gonna take that home. So because of that championship, obviously the competition keeps going. You get that drive, that fire, and then you can't wait for next season. So ever since it was probably like I think 2000, maybe 2007, no, maybe even earlier than I think 2005, 2004, something like that's when I first started, and it just kept going after that. But even with when it came to fantasy, every time we tried to create a new league, we tried to create something different or to add some sizzle to it. Kind of adds a story to this jersey here. In one of the leagues I'm in, what we do is anybody once we pay in the league dues, we all pay an extra $10 or $15. So the champion not just wins, but also gets the chance to buy their championship jersey of their MVP of their league. So in that league where I won with this jersey, I actually had Raheem Mostert, and I traded for Breece Hall. I think it was week 4 or week 5. It was right before they played the Broncos, which was my birthday weekend, and I ended up flying to Denver myself just to go watch the game. Saw Breece fucking kill it. He started him, so that was a great way to start it off. And then funny thing was, I ended up playing the same dude in the championship who had Mostert, and I had Breece. And of course, I'm the one who came away with the jersey. So I'm a Jet fan all the way through. When it comes to fantasy, when it comes to football in general, I have so many damn fantasy football leagues, can't even keep track. But most of it is really kind of just like friend group based or job based or whatever it is. Kind of just keeps the community together, and I just can't stop. I can't stop letting that go. So,
okay, so obviously you're very involved in the space. You're a big fan, huge Jets fan. Suffering builds character. That's a Calvin and Hobbes quote that I've loved my whole life.
that's crazy. I got a Calvin Hobbes collection right there. Literally the entire collection right there.
That's like my jam, dude. Seriously. I
Yeah.
have one that's all ripped because when my kid was a toddler, she ripped up a couple of my collection pieces, and I still have them because it's one of those projects that never happens. It's like a fucking Etsy thing of like, someday I'm gonna make a collage poster and frame it, but I've kept it all these years. But the generation app. So this is like I was talking to Greg Kellogg. Shout out to him. He's an OG in the space. He tells me, Jack, I've got this app where you can play with every football player in history, basically. And we're running beta tests. As soon as I heard that, I was like, okay, that sounds intriguing. And then I randomly end up on the sports affiliate on a Thursday, crashing your show for an hour, which was supposed to be like your highlight. And I felt kind of shitty about that. They told me 5 minutes, and then it just kind of worked out that I sat in on the whole show. But it was awesome because I got to play through the test, and like I've gotten a lot more involved now, just like literally purely as a fan. So tell us a little bit about like, how are you sitting around? How did you come up with the idea? And then how'd you go from inception to like, obviously now it's in beta?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not going to take all the credit. I'm one of the originating founders. We are a founding team of 5, actually. Our CEO Nick Uzzilia, he's the one who really kind of dreamt this up, had an idea with it, and it all started pandemic, right? I think once the pandemic happened, what he always says is once Rudy Gobert started to touch the microphones and during the NBA season, and then shit went down, everything went to hell, everything shut down. Our worry was, hey, without sports, what the hell are we going to do? Like, we need sports. We need fantasy. We need something to talk shit about. Games can only do so much. Anything in general can only do so much. So what he actually started to do was kind of just him with his family started to just randomly draw people, any type of player that they wanted to pick. And then after what they did, once they all drafted their teams, technically with just by writing a name on a piece of paper, they all kind of threw in a hat weeks and seasons and weeks, so they can randomly pick statistics and figure out whatever week and you chose from their season, those scores would actually apply to their current situation. And then you would apply those fantasy points there, and then you would go head to head to play with each other. So after they did a small little league to pray and practice there, you can see like he had his father, his cousin, his uncle, all these different groups of people with all these different types of generational players. And once he came to light and saw results, he said, you know, we got to put, you know, an idea and put it into reality. So he got connected with me. He got connected with Chris, Mike Iannuzzi, and Michael Waite. That's the whole squad there. Got together and tried to see what we can do to implement this idea into an actual application. So like just internal conference calls. Again, the pandemic helped. We had nothing else to freaking do. And we just got together, threw some ideas down. And then we finally got to kind of a developer on the outside who just really made designs. So we wanted to just see, hey, if we designed it, what it would look like. Dude came up with some sick designs, and that just ignited us even more to actually go ahead and push it forward and actually make it real. So we dug in, got a bunch of quotes in the States, got a bunch of quotes out of the States, and tried to figure out what was best for our pockets. And then once we finally found a developer that worked out for us, we were able to just little by little teach him. Well, he actually didn't know anything about fantasy, didn't know anything about American football. Had to literally do maybe PowerPoints and teaching him on fantasy, then another day to teach him football, and another day to put it together. So really, really just immense, intensive, just grinding and getting together and education. And again, taking ideas from what the developer knew, taking ideas from what we wanted, and ultimately created this beta app, right? We internally tested it ourselves just to make sure we practice drafts, see what works, see what didn't work, kept preparing it. But then we said, there's things that we're probably missing that we want to get out there to the world and make sure people can test it out and also let us know what we can do to make it better. So we got some friends. Then we also got in touch with Greg, got in touch with Bob Lung over at the Fantasy Football Expo, met a bunch of people at the FSGA in the winter conference. Like, shout out to Chris Allen over at the Fantasy Life. He got me connected with a bunch of people. Like, the first of all, the community itself is amazing. Everybody's open arms. Everybody wants to talk with you. Everybody wants to get together and just help each other out. But once they saw what we kind of had to offer, they just wanted to make sure we got in front of the right people. Greg was huge for us. You know, Greg has been beta testing with a bunch of folks nonstop, giving us feedback, giving us ideas to fix things. And then also when you jumped into that podcast as well, kind of bringing things to light, like what things we're missing or what things we can do to put it together. So right now it's available on the App Store, available on the Play Store for people to play around with, to test it out. And we want to hear things from people, right? So we want everybody to jump in, play around with it, download it, and get with your friends to jump on it as well. And let us know what you think about it. Let us know if there's something that you really like about it, something maybe you don't like about it, things you would like to see, things maybe you want taken away, whatever possibly could be. We're really open to everything, and we want you all to be a part of the process. You know, yourself included, Jack. So whatever anybody can do, that's really where we're at now. Super excited because, again, we've actually just uncovered a couple other bugs that we want to improve on. So within, hopefully tomorrow or by this weekend, we're going to get an update out there just to make sure we clear out some of those bugs. And then it'll be back up and running. And I think with that application update, we're actually going to be updating and adding some more players to graduate into generations, which is kind of cool. Like, for example, your Josh Allen, your Lamar Jackson, hopefully Justin Jefferson, a couple other folks that are kind of more in tune now, going to be available there. And just as a criteria for our players, just so everybody knows that, in order for you to actually be a part of the generations application to be used as a player, you need at least 3 years of statistics. Because what that does, it adds variability. So when you're going head to head with everybody, what the system does, the algorithm does, it randomly picks a season in their career and then a week in their career, and it applies the statistics into fantasy points when you go head to head. What we did omit is we omitted bye weeks. We omitted games that they didn't play. But if they have taken a snap, that game is part of the data. So let's say you just went in there and took a knee. You took a knee. Sorry, it is what it is. You went ahead, you were having a great ass game and you put in work, but you snapped your ACL. That's part of it too, because that's how real fantasy sports works, right? So just making sure we tried to implement the real life sweat. And what we did was also the score releases stagger over time. So in the beginning, you'll have your quarterback score released, then you have your running back, the second running back, your wide receiver, the next wide receiver, tight end, your flexes, and then at the end of the hour, you'll actually have your full scores head to head and know where you're at. Have a playoff like you typically do. And then hopefully be crowning yourself a generational champion, my friend.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that I loved right off the bat was, you know, how that random variability of the games. That was something that I thought was neat because, you know, I was part of the last beta test, like I mentioned, and my team started off like kind of really slacking. We were 0-3. I made some changes, tinkered around. So that's part of something I want to talk about later too. But at one point I added Jamal Charles to my team. And there was one week where my entire team sucked except it was that one Jamal Charles game where he had like the crazy 200 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. It was like, shit, I remember that game, like for real life, and like how it messed up fantasy. And it's funny watching it like come back in the Generations app. So like that was even a pop of, if you're someone who's played fantasy for a long enough time, you're like, you know, the Alvin Kamara Christmas game, when you see that happen, at some point you're gonna be like, oh shit, that was the Kamara Christmas game. Like it. So that was something that I thought was really interesting about it. And you know, I kind of play dumb, but it's funny because like this really falls actually in my field of like what I do for work. Before we get into that though, we're gonna stop off in the neighborhood and we're gonna ask another dumb hypothetical question here. Would you rather have the best house in the worst neighborhood or the worst house in the best neighborhood?
That's an interesting question. After I answer this, I'm going to ask you how you got that question because that's a super interesting question. So it's actually funny you say that. I'm actually born and raised in the same apartment building I grew up in Brooklyn, and it's kind of hard thinking about moving out or even thinking about a different place. And I think in Brooklyn, everything kind of looks the same. So no one can really tell what looks good or what doesn't. So I'm just blending in the mesh here. But damn, the best house in the worst neighborhood. I mean, if I'm friends with everybody, I don't think anybody's going to rob me. But if the worst house in the best neighborhood, you know what? I probably would want the best house in the worst neighborhood. I don't know why. I think it's because I don't know if I gel with the best neighborhood folks, right? I think I'm homegrown in Brooklyn. I'm very neighborly with the crew. And I think even if I had the best house, I would have such companionship with my neighbor because on my block, like I said, I'm born and raised. I literally know everybody on my block. And in New York City, that's almost damn near impossible. So I feel like I feel like I can gather the squad and make sure the neighborhood is uptight to make sure to take care of my crib.
So I vary with my answer, and I can't take credit. I pulled basically all of these questions from Reddit is where I went digging into a lot of these ones. But in my life, you know, I've moved around a lot of times, and I feel like I've kind of had both. I've, you know, been in a neighborhood that, like, you know, it wasn't the greatest ever. Not like it was a bad neighborhood. It's Canada. It's kind of hard to come by bad neighborhoods around here. But, you know, it was a nice house and everything. But it was my parents' house and whatever. But then, like, as I was older, you know, and it's not like, again, it's not like my parents were rich or anything. But, like, this is just how fucked our housing market is. It's like in the 2000s, like my parents had really fucking ballin' ass house, but they only paid like $150,000 for it, from what I remember.
What a time, dude!
Dude, oh fuck! I could go on a whole other tangent of like literally it was like a 3-bedroom, 2-story house with a heated pool. So it was like what the fuck. But anyways, you know, it was like a nice, fine neighborhood, but it was like we had one of the nicest houses. Like all the fucking kids from our whole neighborhood would come over because we had the fucking ballin' out pool and shit. So it's like, yeah, there's that aspect of if you're a very communal person and you feel like you are not an asshole, and so therefore won't be targeted and victimized, then yeah, I could understand like wanting the best house in the worst neighborhood. But I've done the flip plenty of times. And again, when you say best neighborhood now, I'm not talking about a gated community because fuck those people.
Agreed.
You know, fucking anyone, if you're in a homeowners association, I'm sorry, but fuck you too. That's not my kind of people. But like, you know, if I'm like just like in the like, you know, the project housing, but like we're like right next to like the super nice neighborhood and my kid goes to all the best schools and shit. Like I've kind of always done that as an adult, where it's like I will pick like the cheapest housing that is next to the nice neighborhood. So it's like you get both advantages of like, you know, again, you get that cultural mix of like you still get good people, but you get to kind of like go and, you know, take their shit.
Now that you mentioned schooling, that might impact it because I do have a son. He's 3 years old. You know, it's crazy. You mentioned the Alvin Kamara Christmas game. My son was born during it.
Oh my God.
I literally had the phone on the other side of the room. I was watching the game and then the nurses came and said, "Hey, it's time. I was like, well, I told my wife, I'm just gonna keep the phone over there. It's a
Yeah.
really good game right now. And I had Alvin Kamara on my team. Put it on the
Oh.
side, and I'm helping my wife just push and do things. And I'm just like, oh shit, oh Alvin Kamara, oh. So it was So that's how I remember that game. I'm watching that game while literally my son is popping out, and what a crazy way to do that. But yeah, I think with the school situation, I might have to change my answer, but I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with my guns with the best house in the worst neighborhood.
No, I think I like that again, like from the communal aspect of like I'm just gonna have all the people over and like I'm gonna have my crew. I'm gonna know everybody.
Exactly.
I like that. I like bringing people in as opposed to pushing them out. All right, let's get back to a little bit more about the app. I was saying how it relates to my job. So what I do basically in real life is I test video games, which is kind of hilarious. I fell ass backwards into it because where I live in Quebec is very French, but the job is uniquely English. You have to be English speaking, and therefore they were actually having trouble finding people to fill those roles
That's
up
a
here.
fantastic problem.
Yeah, I know, right? So again, it's just luck of the draw that my situation in life has brought me here to where that became an availability. And COVID for a lot of people sparked the content creation thing. I'm late to the game on that. I'm still in my first year of that. That wasn't what did it for me. What did it for me was that COVID sparked a career change into what I do now, and then that really led into having the freedom, availability, but also the know-how almost of kind of shifting a lot of my previous knowledge and experience into the content creation stuff. And so very long-winded way of saying like, the beta test was something that was very intriguing to me. And you were talking about kind of some of the things that you're having to do updates to roll out and make changes along the way. So, we're jumping ahead a little bit, but are there already certain future versions that you and your cohort have in mind of kind of where you want to take this? Or, I know you said you were very much in that feedback stage, kind of, I guess. Do you kind of have a path of where you see yourself going with it a little more firmly, or is this very much of like, we're going to take everything in and kind of see where it goes?
It's a mix of both. So before we even got it out to people, we already kind of created strict deadlines for us. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to attend the FSGA Summer Conference in July, and we're actually going to be the breakout sponsor in the Fantasy Football Expo on Sunday. So definitely want people to join in on any of those trips if you can, those conferences. So we have kind of like hard deadlines on things we want to do. So a couple of the additions we wanted to add on, some of the customization pieces we need to tweak around a little bit. Like those are some things we want to do a little bit sooner. And then with some of the feedback we got from some of the guys like Greg and yourself, there's some things we want to really push forward because it's actually going to make sure the feel of the game is going to be a lot smoother and a lot more relatable to what fantasy is now. And it's something simple, right? So even being able to switch a person within the same roster, that was something we didn't have it implemented, but we're taking a fix to actually get that going. So simple things like we may have missed. That's the quick fixes we want to do now, which is why we need the feedback because there's some things we may just be missing on. But ultimately, there's a lot of big things we want to do. Like ultimately, we also want to be able to create a mock draft system, right? That's something that's going to be able to be really cool for people to integrate themselves. So even if they don't have a league right now, they could just jump in and start playing that. So there's some things that is going to take some more time to build out to make sure it's working fluidly and efficiently and as good as we want it to. But we also have some deadlines we want to hit. So yeah, we do have already ideas of a future version of the application that we truly want. But then with the feedback, it's either going to help us impact the current status of it to make sure it's still playable and still enjoyable for people to be able to navigate and have fun during that beta testing. Or we could be really missing something really huge. And that's something we should maybe put in the forefront. So for example, we have a queue, right? And the My Queue is something that people can kind of integrate and play with now and be able to stack rank their players so that if they can attend a draft, they can go ahead and let it flow and it'll auto draft themselves. Some things we were having some issues with is actually the setup of the organization of it. So at first it was by highest point total, then it's going by name. So there's some things we're trying to fix around so we can actually create prioritization on it. It's something pretty simple in concept, But because we already have the app developed, we have to do a couple of things in the back end to make sure we kind of tear it down to build it back up at the same time. So I feel like that's a little bit more important, because if you have drafts going on, you can't attend. You want to make sure the queue is working efficiently as to your liking. So that's something we want to push up forward. But that's just an example. And again, a lot of other things have been coming along the way, so we can go ahead and just add some tweaks to it. But I think where we're at now, like I said, we definitely do have ideas of what we want, but the feedback that's been coming in has been really helpful to help us reprioritize what should be done first, and then maybe push some things later, because it's not something that's been coming up as a question or an issue during the beta testing.
So to kind of tie in, that long-winded spiel of what I was talking about my career in gaming versus, the aspirations currently that you've just laid out for us. My question overall and overarching is, when it comes to the concept of what you've ultimately designed here, because fantasy football at the end of the day is gambling. I think a lot of people view it that way, and this is not that. To me, I view this as gaming. And so if this is gaming, that opens, I think different opportunities and aspects of, potential routes that you can take. And, one idea, and this is like, I haven't even given this to you off screen yet, but it's just because it's coming to mind because, you talked about playing in all kinds of different leagues. One of the leagues I played in and ultimately left for different reasons, but one of the aspects of that league that I really liked was the guy ran it like a fan fiction league, is the closest thing I could say, where he had like reports coming out of the matchups, as if like it was like a news reporter delivering the report of like the post news match. He like doing literally pre and post matchup news, but the one aspect he had that I thought was really interesting was, and this is kind of something that, again, the potential in your app is overwhelming sometimes, almost, of like you have to rein it in, and I get that, but like, so the idea of introducing coaches is something I thought would be really interesting, because you could have it where each team has a coach's card, and depending on the coach's card, or how many wins you accrue per season or whatever, like it gives, like the coach's card gives you a set amount of mulligans. So like if you got a historical game where the guy popped a 0 because he came and took that knee, it's like, oh, you can reshuffle and get a different game, and you only get to use it once per matchup, like kind of like, and so the strategy of where and when you use it, adding little bits of strategy to the game like that. So that was one aspect of, are there any of the kind of those plans in mind to kind of take it more towards a gamified sense rather than, getting kind of away from the gambling? Because I think if you associate too much with just like that idea of it, people are like, well, it's not, you can't gamble on it, right? But if you gamify it, then now you're changing the game on it completely. So there's that aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it is, you're not Mother Teresa out here. What's the route for monetization ultimately that you guys see for yourselves?
Yeah, I actually do like that coach's idea. It's kind of cool. It's a way to kind of just spice up the game a little bit, especially during the session, because you don't know what the other user is going to do. And then you got to kind of strategize and skill yourself up to see who you can kind of replace. So I actually like that. That's pretty cool. So we have actually a few ideas when it comes to trying to spice it up per se, right? So like the customization. Right now, it's set up as a standard scoring where there's no PPR or half PPR as of yet. That's coming soon. And also the way we have the roster fixed up, it's fixed as 1 QB, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flexes. But it's not a super flex. So super flex isn't in there yet. So another way to implement that is creating kind of full customized types of leagues where you can fully change your roster, change the scoring system. And also another way we wanted to kind of gamify it, right, was competitions. So let's say me, I'm the head of this competition where we want to play. I'm setting up a roster, and everybody has to battle me out. And again, the champion, of course, the winner of that will try to win some type of prize or something like that. So a way to monetize also to tie that in is a buy-in for that, right? So whether it's a buy-in, like a small fee, $5 or something, to go ahead and play this championship league game, and the winner either wins a prize pot or wins like signed memorabilia or something that's kind of in reference to generations. So some ideas we've been thinking of that. Another way we wanted to gamify it too is not exactly coach's card, but player cards. So the player cards, what we kind of wanted to do is not exactly like an ultimate team, similar to like ultimate team, but it's not gonna kind of boost or add like a sizzle to your game. It's not gonna really kind of mess around with the game statistics or anything. But what it does, it adds like a collector's aspect to it. So you'll be able to collect cards, open packs, and you open up platinum versions, gold versions, silver versions, whatever. And let's say you had the player on your roster, it would actually highlight like that player in that color. So let's say if you have a Tom Brady on your roster, but you also own a Tom Brady card, it would actually shine platinum to let people know that you own that rare card, for example. So that's a way to kind of just add that collector's mentality too. But a couple of other things we wanted to do when it comes to monetization is like a head-to-head or DFS beat the roster type of idea, to be able to make sure people can go head-to-head and be able to kind of have a bigger type of group of competition, and not just like a 12 league or a 16 team league or a 20 team league, but like a really big group of people being able to go ahead and challenge themselves. And then another way to do that is actually adding some type of something I kind of wanted to personally stay away from, because I believe fantasy should be free and I want everybody to really enjoy fantasy. But again, in order to monetize a little bit of it is adding kind of a subscription kind of based thing where it's possible to add like additional factors to the customization, customizing your actual app look, things like that. So a couple additional things there. But right now, of course, completely free. We want people to just play it and get the word out there, have people play around with it, give that feedback so we can make it better. But we do have a couple of other things in mind to be able to monetize it. But at the same time, I think right now at the stage we're at, we just want to get people to know it, play it, give us a feedback, and just have fun with it.
No, for sure. I mean, when you're in beta, that's like you're just getting as much player base as you can so that you can kind of create that buzz and get that feedback. And then for you guys, kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit, you said it's like, is it just basically you have the one dev and then because like just again pulling back the curtain on what I do, like if someone creates a game and they bring it to us for testing, it's like you have the dev team sending us, okay, here's the game, we break it, bust it, find the bugs, send it back. Now ultimately you kind of have this full set of players almost doing that, but does it's a very small dev team. That's a lot to take on. So just kind of internally, how do the dynamics work with generations, like on the back end? What are some of the challenges that you've run into in just setting up an app in general? Like, I mean, that sounds almost crazy to me to say of like, oh yeah, I started an app. That's just a thing I did. So I again, very like my brain is like almost too old school. Ironically enough, even though I'm in this field, it's like I'm like the old millennial in this field now, where it's like all my cohorts and colleagues are like 20 years old, and I'm the fossil that's like barely keeping up with them. So it's like, yeah, when you say that to me, it's like my brain almost can't even wrap my head around it. So like on the back end, like logistically, like what does all that bullshit look like?
Well, in the beginning, it was just an idea, right? So I think we were ourselves were trying to figure out, I guess, what are our roles? What do we do? Or how are we going to try to get it together? But I think the good thing is we all come from a background. Well, I come from a background of banking. I'm a manager in a financial institution. My friend was also, Nick was also doing that as well. A couple other guys in real estate banking. So we all have kind of the idea of what a company should look like, how it looks like. We've been through that corporate structure stuff. So like, all right, let's get serious. Let's actually give ourselves some roles and give ourselves some responsibilities to take care of. And I guess we figured out our strong suits, right? What can we do? What can't we do? Some of us are very good with communicating and getting our faces out there and bringing out the brand. And so people are really good at doing some back-end stuff, connecting with the devs, connecting with a couple other people to be able to outsource some work there. We also have some guys that are really good with data. So like, for example, the data that we're using, which we're going to try to work to improve a little bit more, we're self-scraping that, right? So it takes a passion to want to do that shit, because to look at numbers and spreadsheets, I'm not an Excel guy. I'll tell you that. I hate Excel. I use it. I hate it every single time I look at it. But we have guys that are actually pretty good with it. So they're taking that challenge. But yes, as we develop, right? So we technically got incorporated in 2021. We had some ideas a little bit before that to get this thing built up. But, it took a few years, right? So it wasn't like a snap and make it happen. It was like, all right, we're going to self-discover, figure out what we know, how are we messing up, what can we improve on, and just constant communication. We got it together as many times as we could. We got on Zoom calls, Google Meets, whatever worked. We got ourselves together and try to just share ideas, and also talk to friends and family to see what they thought of, right? To see if this is something that's truly worth the endeavor. Is it truly worth our funds? Is it truly worth something that's our time to possibly invest and maybe lose this money, right? What do you know? But when we got together and thought about it, say, listen, if there's a time for us to really break out and take a risk and a gamble, what better time to do it now, right? We got some cash on hand. We got the time to be able to work on it. Fuck it, dude. Let's fucking throw it and make it happen. So that's what we did. We piled up the bread, got it out to the right dev. And our dev is a pretty good guy. But like I said, he didn't know fantasy, right? So that took some time to be able to educate him on. So as he put out the first few versions, we're like, this is not how it works. Let's look at Yahoo. Let's look at ESPN. Let's look at this. Let's take some time to maybe screen record this stuff. Let's go through it piece by piece. And I even have some of the old PowerPoints I had for him where I took screenshots of each application, compared it to what we wanted to look like conceptually. And I used to be an artist or a graphic designer at heart. I used to draw a lot. That's why you see a lot of anime stuff over here on the back end there. Like, I was really big into artistic things. So I was able to kind of draw out and give diagrams to what I wanted to see, what we want each screen to kind of flow into. But even then, we didn't think of every single screen. So we almost got to finishing the developing phase. And one of the craziest things we forgot, simplest things, was a fucking login screen. So, right. So we got everything else. We developed everything else. And he came to us. He goes, you know what? We're missing something. And I said, what are we missing? There's no way we're missing anything. He goes, how do you log in? I said, shit, we didn't fucking think of that. Because it's, to us, when it comes to the user experience, you're not thinking of that. But it's the simple things that you forget. So it was the small stuff that kept going back to the drawing board, come back together, get to the dev, and make it happen. And a lot of that cycling just helped us out, just get better rapport with each other, getting to know each other's strengths, weaknesses, whatever. And then as we got closer to actually putting it out there to the App Store and the Play Store, we saw the FSGA pop up, and it was an opportunity for an elevator pitch. We missed the elevator pitch because we were too late to sign up for it. But at that point, we were only able to have one of us go because it was such short notice. So I actually went, and our goal was to at least get this in the App Store before then. We did it 3 days before the Super Bowl, which was perfect. FSGA was right after that. So when we got there, we were able to really showcase it. And hey, just download your phone. Let's take a look at it together. And just by starting with that, just having people play with it there, see the things. When we got there, we set up, I would say maybe 30 drafts to auto draft itself, one every hour, so I can showcase people everything and every aspect and every kind of phase of the draft, phase of the leagues, phase of the playoffs, whatever it was. And after showcasing everything, we took some small feedbacks, implemented another update. Then we had Greg reach out to us. And when we got to Greg, he had kind of like, I would say V 1.2 in his hands. And then we found out some more bugs, some more issues and opportunities. And that's kind of how the back end works. So CEO is Nick. He's the daddy. I like to put it that way because he's the one who created everything, bread and butter, and the true passion. If you think I can talk a lot, you think I got energy, this dude Nick is 1,000 times more than me. And then we have Mike Iannuzzi, Michael Waite, and Chris Corindongo. We're all together. Like, we all have different bits and pieces of things that we don't think of, things we do think of. Like Excel spreadsheet masters, Mike Iannuzzi, he's the one holding that down. God bless him. I hope his eyes still work because he's been on that shit nonstop. But again, and Mikey Waite, he's the one actually really controlling the conversations with our dev because he has a great rapport with him. They speak a lot on good terms. So we figured he just handled those conversations. When we get on calls, we have a weekly call actually with our dev to be able to go over small things and things to improve and also timelines. But we also do midweek calls to also check in on him and also add in a couple things as well. So he has a small team on himself. Obviously, he has those internal calls with his team when he works on certain things. So tons of gears moving, but ultimately to make the clock work.
I'm stupid. What's FSGA?
FSGA is the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. Okay. So it's a group of individuals for content creators and app developers and all that getting together and just shooting the shit with each other, being able to connect with each other, build rapport, and find out ways to see what they can do, or even find out if their app is actually worth the time. One of the cool things that one of the cool people I had a chance to meet was Joe Bryan from the Football Guys. And to have time with him I'm surprised I even had time with him. He almost dedicated an hour to me, which was beyond amazing. And being able to talk about the concept And just to see him kind of light up about it and to say, you know what, you got something here. Like, don't let this drop. Like I've talked to people and I can tell people like, hey, it's cool, good idea. But I can also tell you if it's legit and you got something legit here, don't drop the ball. And the second he said that, and he was actually the second conversation I had at the conference, I was lit. I was fucking ignited. And I just couldn't stop talking to people, connecting and trying to get better and better and better. So when you get the right people in front of you, when they're telling you good things, but yeah, you have opportunity to grow, it doesn't bring you down, it just helps you want to grow even more and push farther and farther and farther until literally this thing fails. So we had a chance where it failed a little bit during the beta. So you break it, fix it, break it, fix it. And that's kind of the rotation we've been going at.
So it's funny that you mentioned like a background in banking, because like, you know, with all this techie talk and, you know, gamifying all this shit, like you would think like we're both a bunch of gamer nerds over here. Like, do you have a background in gaming at all? Like, is that a hobby for you? Is that something you dabble in? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah, man, I love games. I love anime. I love games. I got Legos back here that I didn't finish yet. It's still a Lamborghini I got to finish. That's my Stone Cold Smoking belt there. I got my Calvin Hobbes collection. On this side here, I got all my other Dragon Ball Z statues and my more expensive pops that are there, other Legos. But over here, I actually have tons of gaming systems. I actually used to go to thrift shops and buy broken ones so I could fix it. So I had fixed up 2 PS1s I fixed. I fixed up a PS2 that I'm using right now. I'm working on my Nintendo 64 still. Got to fix that up. Something's wrong with the AV ports. A Wii, I actually took in, I jailbroke it. The works is on it. I got everything you can imagine on that. I think I have it here. I custom built a Game Boy Advance.
Oh,
so a matte black with some gold buttons on it. Got a backlit screen, USB-C battery, rechargeable battery. So yeah, I'm a gamer nerd too, my friend.
So what's the be all end all? What's the holy grail? What is your favorite game of all time?
Favorite game of all time. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a series just because the story's so intriguing, but the Metal Gear series.
Ooh, that's
I'm a Metal Gear man, 100%. Solid Snake's my dude. Just when Fortnite put him out, I literally got back onto Fortnite, put money in it, bought a damn battle pass just so I can get the skins, bro, because Solid Snake's my dude. But I played, the Gran Turismos. I have the entire Gran Turismo collection. I'm a Guitar Hero Rock Band fanatic. I got all the instruments still in my closet back there. I'm a beast. Come challenge me if you want to. Everything, all the wrestling games. Oh, I might have. I can say it. I stopped at, I think SmackDown versus Raw 2008 was probably the last one I actually truly bought and enjoyed. And after that, I bought 2K16 just because Stone Cold Steve Austin's on the cover. That's my dude. But I'm actually really contemplating buying 2K24 because I just see the graphics and the match slips the match types that they have. It's pretty sick, and it's kind of bringing me back to want to do it. And then The Rock's been doing his thing recently, so he's kind of gotten me back into it. So, I'm a fan of a lot of different things altogether. But yeah, gaming is what got me. It got me to open up as a person because I was a very shy kid, nervous kid. I used to just draw to myself and just stay in my own room and everything. But gaming is what got me connected with friends and got the family and all that. So gaming is a big part of my life for sure.
Man, you said so many things that struck chords. My brain is just overloading right now.
Pow.
Holy shit. Okay. By the time this comes out, it's going to be a couple weeks after the fact, but obviously it's WrestleMania weekend coming up. Cody Rhodes versus The Rock, or Cody Rhodes versus The Rock is night one. That's like the tag match, but Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns for the title, which I'm just going to say, I know the Rock and Roman are winning night one because it's definitely, they're doing the bloodline rules thing night two, but night two, I'm pretty sure it's Cody. That's who I got. Is that who you got?
I feel like I think for the sake of wrestling, I think it needs to be Cody. I think it needs to be. Not to say I'm a Cody stan. I'm not a crazy Cody stan. But Roman Reigns has been doing this thing a little too long. If anything, I look like Roman Reigns. So I'm probably on board side with him. But I think just for the sake of wrestling, to keep things alive, to keep the fans coming back, because I used to be a hardcore fan. I actually, what I do on my spare time and when I'm bored is I put on a streak of random pay-per-view. So right now I'm up to Unforgivens. So I just stream all the Unforgivens all at once. So I did Backlashes. I did Royal Rumbles. So I just stream them all at once. I got to start doing Raws and everything too. But like, I go so hard to watch the Attitude Era, to watch the Ruthless Aggression Era, to watch the Classic Era, right? I'm not tied into the era now. And I not to say that the talent is not great, but just the way the presentation is, some of the camera angles, like, it gives away too much. And also the way characters took their personality from the ring to outside, it lived forever. Like, the Undertaker was the Undertaker. If you saw him outside, you would shit your pants, right? But if you see like Rhea and Dom, right? Rhea Ripley and Dom, right? Like, they're together doing all this crazy stuff. But you look at her outside, she has her own life. You can see that shit on Instagram, stuff like that. So you get detached because you know it's not real. But when I was a kid, I thought that shit was real. Like, I thought that every aspect of it was real, and I was believing in it, and I was into it. Like, when you lose that sizzle, you don't have the connection with it. So we need to have something like The Rock. I think bringing him back, I thought it was a little overload in the beginning, but then when it came to Final Boss, when it came to the things that he was doing, I was like, damn, this shit is good. Like, I can't even say no. So that's what really pulled me back in as a true fan. And I'm hoping that we can revive that ultimately. Honestly, I hope we can revive it back.
The Rock is reviving kayfabe is what he's doing. Because that's what you're talking about, is when we all believed, like, oh yeah, Kane is Undertaker's brother. That's just a fact of life. Like, you know, I'm not.
That was it. There was no questions asked. No questions asked. And we took his mask off. I was like, oh shit.
Let's just, anyways. But yeah, back then it was like that. It was, you were the character 24/7. You had to maintain kayfabe. And The Rock, you know, and the way that Triple H is running the show now and doing it now is fucking incredible. And I love what they're doing, because they're basically doing the thing now where they're using the wrestling journalists and feeding them a bunch of bullshit to get people riled up online to create rumors and, you know, all this like back chatter, and that's the kayfabe now.
It's not easy to predict anymore. You can't predict it now. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything was so predictable. You're looking at like Bleacher Report wrestling reports, and I'm like, they're right. They're literally right. Everything you say predicted was right. So like, having that mystery again, it's just bringing the sizzle back. And it's funny, I actually have my old school Austin 316. I don't know if you remember, but it used to be the USB connected, used to upload like phrases. I literally have it just sitting over there. Like, I was crazy back then, man.
That was the other part in the back of my brain, is that for weeks now I've been predicting my outcome for WrestleMania Night 2 is, so night 1, like I said, they win the tag match, Rock and Roman. It's bloodline rules. And I think they've been kind of setting it up, but I think what they're going to do is they're going to go like the Avengers storyline. So you're going to have obviously the bloodline on one side. You've got Cody, Seth, Jay Uso's already involved. I think they could even involve like Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, who have obviously previous beef. But I think like all these guys are like going to get involved. I could see just like everyone's laid out. The bloodline standing tall. It looks like Cody's about to go down. Everyone is freaking out, and then glass breaks.
I was just going to say that, dude. I was just going to say that. I swear to God, Stone Cold's going to come and fucking stun everybody, bro. And that's going to ignite the hell out of me, because if I was a fan of anybody, it's Stone Cold over everybody. I don't give a shit what anybody says. It's Stone Cold over everybody.
No, it's funny because like I grew up very much like with Stone Cold, like, and The Rock, but like it was the two of them at the same time. Like I started watching in 1996. It was right through 96 to 2000 was like, that was like the talk about being the biggest mark possible. I was 6 to 10 years old. Like, so like, man, all this stuff now, I 100% agree with you. And I think all fans like it's the combination of nostalgia, but the new stuff, like honestly, you know, the one guy I would recommend out of like the new school crop that's absolutely my favorite wrestler right now is Walter. His name's Gunther. I still call him Walter.
Gunther's good. I'm not gonna lie, Gunther's good. I like him. He got swag. Ever since he cut his weight, swag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he's incredible, like on the mic and like the swag, and he just looks like a champion and everything. But then like when you actually like watch the matches, like, because that's why people watch AEWs for the work rate and for the match. And I'm like, yo, just watch Gunther. He'll give you the work rate.
I agree with that. No, Gunther stepped. I think he was one of the newer guys, one of the only newer guys I actually enjoyed watching. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tune in for this. I would actually pop up the pay-per-view or whatever on Peacock, and look for that match particularly and watch it, just because I knew he was a good performer, honestly.
Yeah, no, him the match he had last year at WrestleMania was literally my favorite of both.
I enjoyed that one. Yep.
That was it was him, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus just beat the shit out of each other, like for real. And then Clash.
I do like Drew coming out also. He's coming out with a good personality now.
Yeah.
I like how Drew's coming up too.
There's certain guys, like honestly, like Seth Rollins. I love Seth Rollins, but just not right now. Like I hate the babyface Seth Rollins. Like when Seth Rollins is heel and he's doing that fucking cackle and just being a dick, like that's prime Seth Rollins for me.
He gotta keep that. I do agree that I do need him to be a heel for sure.
All right. I'll hit you with a hypothetical, and then I really wanted to talk about the expo before we jump on out of here. You are in a library and you find a book and it's kind of glowing. It seems magical, has some properties. You whip it open, you start reading, and you discover, oh shit, this is my life. You get right up to the point that you are at now. Oof. Do you turn the page knowing that you will not be able to change the events that come? So you'll know, but you can't do anything about it. So would you rather know and not be able to change it, or is ignorance truly bliss?
No, I think in that case, I think ignorance is bliss, because it gives you, I think it creates faith, some type of hope, right? I think for motivation's sake. Because if you know what's going to happen, then you can't still self-motivate. I think you still need, I'm a big guy that needs to have fire. If I don't have fire in my belly, there's no reason to get up in the morning. And I get up every goddamn morning and I sometimes can't sleep because there's always shit to do. And my brain keeps working. Like I cannot turn it off. Like if I'm working on one thing, I'm thinking about the 10 other things I got to work on also. And as much as people say that's a bad thing for you, like you still got to have that drive. And I think once you know what's happening and what's going to happen and you can't do nothing about it, you, even though the things are going to happen, you kind of just lose the edge, right? You lose that bliss of life, right? I think you got to have that mystery. You got to have that unknown so that you can still wake up in the morning. I think if you know what's going to happen, then what's the point of actually getting up? Might as well just jump off a bridge now.
No, I ultimately agree with you. There's only the only part of me that wants to read the book is the rebellious part of me that's like, I'm going to read the book.
I'm going to break this shit.
I'm going to fuck this up. Somehow, some way, I'm going to break this book. Like, I'll read the book and I'm going to be like, whatever I got to do to make the opposite of what I just read happen is now what's going to happen. Like, that's the fire in my belly is, you told me I can't? You told me I can't? I don't know what it is.
That's a good take too. That is a good take. I like that take. But then if you know you can't change it, as much as you stay motivated to do that.
If you told me honestly, like you can change. If you told me you can read it and have the power to change it, that's where I would honestly be like, you know what? I'm not gonna fuck with it. Murphy's Law. I'm just gonna. I would rather ignorant. But it's like when you say, oh, you can read it and then there's nothing you can do, Jack. You can't change it. I'm like, wait, whoa, I can't? Can't?
Yeah, it's kind of like my son when I tell him stop doing something. He's like, Dad, what? No? And
yeah, I'm like the worst for that. It's like I've been like that my whole life with bosses too and shit. It's like if I really respect a boss, and it's like, you know, you're actually the perfect kind of example of like the type of person where it's like, I can tell you're a go-getter. I can tell you're a smart guy. If you were like the boss of my company or whatever, you're like, Jack, I need you to do this thing. I wouldn't really question it that much. I would just do the thing. But if I think you're a fucking idiot, like if I thought you were a jamoke, like not only would I question the thing, I would actively be like, this guy's a fucking like, idiot. I'm not doing what he said. Like I'm very much like that way of like, you know, I'm a contrarian if I don't respect you. And so it's like that I kind of
I get it. You take that lock in the book as disrespect. Like, who the fuck are you to tell me that's it? So
exactly.
That I get. Okay.
Yeah. So the last thing on a serious note that we'll talk about before we jump out of here, and you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, the Fantasy Football Expo. I'm going to be going for the first time this year. I know it's been long running. I'm making my way down from Canada all the way to Canton, Ohio. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. tell us a little bit. Obviously, you're sponsoring it. So explain it to me a little bit better, I guess. You're sponsoring an event or a day, or like, how does that work? How did that come about? What's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, to even start off with that, it's actually going to be our first time too. It's my first time joining in Canton as well. It's actually it's crazy because I watch and experience so much like fantasy football material just as a player that when I got to FSGA and I'm going to the expo and I'm seeing everybody and I'm actually like in good terms with these folks, it makes me shit my pants sometimes. Like I can't believe I'm doing it. It's a beautiful thing. So if anybody wants to try to get into the industry, don't be afraid. Get in. Just there's no reason not to be afraid about it. But FSGA, I met Bob Lung. And Bob Lung is the man who created Fantasy Football Expo. He set it all up as his baby. And he was such a cool dude. He shared so much insight. And he's like, once I shared him the application, he's like, dude, you need to bring this shit to the expo. Like, no questions asked. And having, again, that belief and that fire to continue the fire I had throughout the entire conference, I said, well, we're going to find a way to make it happen. Once we got back to home base, I talked with the team. I had to let them know what I went through at the FSGA because I did go myself. Kind of scary, but I think it was easier to handle instead of having to, keep 5 people under control, getting all drunk and fucked up. I was able to just handle me at that point. But once I talked with Bob, just the things that they do over there and just to see how the expo was, I took a look at his website and I said, there's got to be a way for us to be a part of that. And he showed us a couple plans to see what we can do. So we decided to actually be the breakout sponsor. So what the breakout sponsor entitles us to is to own the day of Sunday, right? So we're going to be posted all over the place. So Sunday's going to be our day. We're going to have about 30 minutes on the stage to be able to talk about our app, showcase some stuff. But we're also going to be on the screen. We're going to have a booth as well. And we're going to try to do some live drafts, try to do some competitions, hopefully some giveaways. We're trying to see if maybe we can bring in a special guest, teasing in it a little bit. But we're working on that still. No promises yet. But a lot of ideas that we're cooking to make sure we have people just know what we're doing, what we're about, but also meet us. We're human beings. We're regular dudes. We're literally how we got this app together. We were just 5 homies that said, we need to keep doing this shit. And I know people out there want to do the same thing. What can we do to do it for ourselves, but also do it for everybody in the industry out there? And it kept rolling and rolling and rolling. Now the small ball is huge as shit. So by the time we get to Canton, Ohio, we're hoping for a vastly improved version of the application. I'm going to say like a V2, V3 officially. So by then, like once it's up and running, it'll be able to handle as many users as possible, have the customization, have the dreams of what we want in the application. May not be the prettiest aesthetically, but we wanted to make sure it works. And I think that's the biggest thing for us so that we can get to the next level of some big dog, or maybe hey, Shark Tank, you never know, hopefully hook us up a little bit and then we can make the big bang shebang right there. But ultimately at the expo, we just want people to come see us, come meet us, talk to us, ask us how we got here, ask us maybe how we can help them if they have some dreams or some ideas that they want to get into the industry with. Because like you said, you're only in the game a year. I'm in the game since, honestly, when it comes to the content and just actually getting our name out there, since February. Like, I'm a baby, dude. So as much as I feel like or sound like maybe I know a lot, I don't. But we also want to be able to share the experience with everybody so that people can also just not be afraid. I think the biggest enemy I've learned in life is yourself, being afraid of anything. Don't be afraid. Jump in. Try to find a way to get to these events. Try to find a way to connect. And hopefully when we're there, we'll give an opportunity to people to connect with us, learn about us, also learn about the application, but also join in on the fun.
For sure, man. I super appreciate it. I got one final question. It's probably the most important one I'm going to ask you on the show. Do you sleep with your beard over or under the blanket?
Oh, I sleep. Oh, it's my blanket's down here, bro. Yeah, there's no way, dude. There's no way my blanket. You know how much I'm going to sweat with this fucking thing, man?
Okay. Actually, though, the real question is shout outs. Shout out some content creators in the space doing great work. Anyone that you've worked with, anyone that you're working with, obviously on the app, or even just content creators that you're like, hey, these are some guys that I follow for my own advice and playing and stuff.
Yeah, so I want to really give a big shout out to the group called The Cookout, right? So the Cookout group is a group of minority individuals who are in the fantasy industry. So what happened was when I got connected, when we were trying to get exposure to generations, we literally just went on LinkedIn, Twitter, every social media thing you can imagine, and just hit everybody and their mother up. One major shout out is going to be Marcus Grant at NFL Fantasy, right? I sent them we sent them a link of the application, say, hey, what do you think? He said, hey, come back to me when it's ready to go and it's downloadable. did the same thing. He's like, hey, Marcus, it's available. Just wanted to see what you thought. He's like, you know what? I'm going to take this. I'm going to shoot it into a small group I have. It's called the Cookout. I'm going to put you a part of that. And let's just see what goes on over there. And just want you to get introduced to a really cool people that can help you out there. Dude, once he got me in that group, everybody was like, what is this? This shit is cool. It's crazy. Like, and everybody was just so supportive. And the next big gang is Chris Allen over at Fantasy Life. He met me at FSGA. He literally walked me and introduced me one by one to so many different people. And me and him still keep in touch. He's been such a huge benefit and blessing to Generations and myself and the squad. Like, the work that he's doing with the Cookout is amazing. We're starting to put in a lot more work in general to make sure we get content out there, to be able to let people know that we know minorities are in this space and they need help to get out there. So we're trying to get people a part of that as well, to make sure they're getting their name out there, possibly get connections to maybe jobs or just learning, training, development. A couple other guys as well. Tip Major, huge guy who's been really helpful. Of course, the man himself, Greg Kellogg, has been a huge blessing for us. This man is fantastic. He's super knowledgeable and he's so just down to earth. Such a beautiful guy to talk to. Like, I love talking to this man. Bob Lung at the Fantasy Expo, of course. I have another man, who's Shabazz. He's the Knicks stan. Crazy guy, great with marketing, great with things in general. He's a really cool dude as well. Man, I got a list I can keep going on. Let's see if I can throw some more names. Tara Victoria, got to meet her at the FSGA for Fantasy Pro. She's super fantastic. Jorge Martin, he's also a writer as well. Super cool dude. Got to meet with him, gave me some crazy ideas, got me connected with some more folks. I mean, the list can go on and on. I can keep going there. But the Cookout Group is looking to do big things too. We're actually trying to see if we can also do a collaborative effort at the Fantasy Football Expo. So we're seeing if maybe we can get some of those guys over with us, possibly join in our table, possibly join in our stage. So that's going to be a nice collaborative effort just because of the great things they've been doing for us. And hopefully they can do for the rest of the people in the industry as well.
Man, that was fantastic. I'm the worst, so I'm going to try and wrap this up with a neat little bow as best as I can. For those of you out there, if you made it this far, we appreciate you. Number one, go download the Generations app so that you guys can start testing, invite your friends, play in a couple leagues. It is super fun, super cool. It's like I said, it's a really great pastime. Especially right now, I'm wrapping up my fantasy hockey championships, and I was just like, fuck, I got no ads left. I got no moves to make. I'm bored. Pulled up Generation, started swapping out some players, making some lineup tinkerings. It might end up saving me in season because I'm famous for my tinkering. So it's just one of those things that make sure you go download the Generations app, test it out, play with it, check it out. At the same time, go follow Generations on Twitter. You can drop the handle because I always forget what the Generations
it's
one is.
At Generations FA10. We're going to work on that because Twitter obviously only has so many characters, but Generations FA10, you can follow me as well. iPervaiz07, hit me up, guys. Like, if you have questions, concerns, like, please, I'm an open book. You can find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram, find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Hit me up. Just hit me up. I'd love to chat with everybody.
You can find us both at the Fantasy Football Expo this year in Canton in August. So make sure you guys go down and check that out. And hey, super kick that subscribe button, help defeat the evil algorithm, and I will catch all of you guys on the flip side.
He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man. Here comes